Hello, my name is Bailey, and today I'm going to be talking to you about a project I worked on this semester in which I evaluated eye movement as a viable way to recognize human activity through feature-based classification models. First, I'm going to introduce the background of eye tracking and my motivations for the study. Then I'm going to walk us through an overview of my methods and discuss my findings. And finally, I'm going to conclude and suggest improvements for future implementations of this study. So first of all, what is eye tracking? Eye tracking is basically a technology that allows devices to pick up and record a person's eye gaze at a given moment. There is such a wide variety of relevant and important applications to eye tracking, anywhere from training in sports to understanding where customers are looking in a given advertisement to even just learning about users' behavior, browsing the web, or reading a book. There are a variety of devices that allow for this eye tracking data to be recorded. The two main categories are wearable devices and stationary devices. Wearable devices are anything from the common VR headsets that you can purchase, and the most popular used for research, which is the video oculography. So from these eye tracking devices, we're able to record an XY coordinate corresponding to the eye gaze at a given moment. And from this, we can extract two rudimentary measurements, saccades and fixations. Saccades, as you can see in the top right figure, are sudden changes in direction and eye orientation, while fixations are those resting periods between the saccades where the eye is stable. The main goal of this study is to serve as a baseline against novel methods evaluating eye movement that researchers are developing today. The flowchart on this slide outlines the methods used in the current study. After pre-processing the data, we implemented a filter that can identify saccades and fixations, which we then use to extract 18 handcrafted features. Then we trained 3 different classification models, and lastly identified the most influential features in these models. First, we had to design an algorithm that could extract these saccades and fixations from just raw XY coordinate data. We needed to make sure that this filter was robust enough to be able to group the noisy data together, but sensitive enough to separate fixations that were close together. You can see in the figure on the left, we have a lot of raw, noisy data, hard to sort of make sense of it. And you can see on the right that after we implemented this filter, we were able to group a lot of the noisy data into a single fixation, as you can see by the green dots. As an overview, the algorithm first seeks to identify how far each coordinate is from the previous one and curates a difference vector holding the distances between each coordinate. It then identifies peaks from the vector where the difference is large enough to potentially be a saccade. Then it accounts for noise and creates a finalized list of peaks. Lastly, we group these coordinates together in a sensitive yet robust manner to estimate the fixations and saccades. This algorithm was coded in Python using a variety of data science packages and adopted so that we could feed any XY coordinate data that we wanted through this filter. Next, we designed functions that could extract 18 different features from the saccades and fixations that we identified from the filter. This was anything from fixation rate to the count to the different directions that the saccades could be in to the saccade length. Next, we feed these features into 3 different classification models: the random forest model, the support vector model, and the k-nearest neighbors. These models were chosen because they were the most commonly used in existing literature, and they're also able to handle multi-class classification. We use a dataset that's looking at sedentary activities to train our models to hopefully recognize 8 different desktop and software development activities, including reading, interpreting, searching, and playing games. The figure on the right shows a few good examples of how gaze patterns look for a variety of activities. For example, reading is a common left to right in a downward pattern versus playing games that maybe you have to track a ball might be going back and forth and back and forth. So why do we care about sedentary activities? Well, it's been found that 25% of Americans are sedentary for over 8 hours a day. So we want to be able to proactively monitor their lifestyle and hopefully be able to change a system's behavior to better work with the user and improve their experience. The performance metric used in the current study was the F1 score. This is very synonymous to accuracy, but it also accounts for false positives and false negatives. It was a very common metric used in the existing literature. So we found that the support vector model and the random forest models achieved a maximum F1 score of 0.64 at a time window of 105 seconds. This generally means that when looking at 105-second samples, we were able to identify the activity correctly 64% of the time. When we broke it down by class, we were able to see that the watching and reading activities were the easiest to identify. This could be due to the distinct patterns of watching a video or reading a book. The models had a little bit more trouble identifying the debugging and playing activities, meaning that maybe the patterns weren't so obvious for the model. Lastly, we wanted to look at which features were most influential in predicting a given activity. What we found was that the saccade size, the number of saccades in the upright direction, and the fixation duration were the most important in predicting an activity. This is very useful information because we can adapt our features and train our models differently in future implementations based on which features were more important or had less of an effect on predicting the activities. Just to reiterate, the main goal of this study was to serve as a baseline for future novel methods evaluating eye tracking data, and we were able to do just that. Fellow researchers were able to use my algorithm, the filter, and train the same models using their novel data to compare it to their new technologies, such as GazeGraph. This study was able to also further support the existing evidence that it is feasible to recognize human activity based on eye tracking data. In future implementations of this study, I would hope to design the filter so that it accounts for moving stimuli. We explore a wider variety of features, and we address the challenges of the heterogeneity of human visual behavior. Despite this, our study was very successful. Thank you for listening.